And good morning. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. Sorry for the late start today. Different stuff going on. I'm Glenn. Griffin's back. We've got a lot to do. I haven't even had a chance to post Would You Rather Wednesday. I'll get there. Today's show is brought to you by countysports.zone. Missed any of championship season. Lacrosse titles given away last weekend. Baseball, softball. Found out all the results, everything that's going on right now at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Coming up on the program, we will check in with our buddy Ross Grimsley, get some thoughts from him about the Orioles. Later on in the program, our friend Matt Valdez from the Sports Junkies, of course, 106.7 The Fan and Monumental Sports Network. He's going to join us and play Would You Rather Wednesday, presented by Glory Days Grill. And also later on this morning, Barry Svrluga from the Washington Post. He wrote a column recently about the lofty opportunity in front of the Baltimore Orioles, so we will chat with Barry Svrluga a little bit later on about that as well. So all of that coming up on the program today. What's not coming up, unfortunately, is us putting someone up on the board, as the Orioles ended up kind of falling apart last night. It started with the fact that, yes, Grayson Rodriguez wasn't great. And it wasn't just that he wasn't great. He was kind of getting clobbered. Like, everything was getting hit hard early on. Now, the weird part obviously about the night is that he turned around and he struck out 10 dudes. It was a very weird night to discuss Grayson Rodriguez. It kind of showed you a little bit of everything. We were having the conversation in a couple different places. We were talking about it with Zach yesterday. I was talking about it with Rita on the radio. Like, where your confidence level is that, presuming Corbin Burns is gone at the end of the year, and I am presuming that, do you think the Orioles have their aces? They have their frontline pitchers for the next 5 years in Kyle Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez. And it's difficult with Grayson because you see it. The the talent is all there, but just at times it's not all put together, and the breaking ball clearly was an issue last night. But that said, he gets battered early, but the Orioles did score 3 in the bottom of the first, and it looked like they were going to be okay. They take the lead right back, and then obviously Grayson turns around and gives up 2 more, and then the offense completely goes to sleep for the rest of the game. Then there's this sort of randomly controversial bottom of the 6th inning where they get 2 runners on with 2 lefties due up, a lefty on the mound who is a killer of lefties, and I am utterly befuddled by the reaction from a percentage of the Orioles fan base. And it always breaks down to a couple things for me. And I'll say it as clearly as I can. Brandon Hyde made absolutely the correct 10 out of 10 times decision to do what he did in pinch hitting Ryan Mountcastle and then Austin Hayes. No ambiguity. No, well, maybe you could have done this. Absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, every single time you're in that spot, 10 out of 10, you pinch hit Ryan Mountcastle for Kyle Stowers. And the arguments that I got back last night, like the first thing that was driving me nuts was, why would you ever use Austin Hayes as a pinch hitter? He hits 160. Well, that one's obvious. The first part is the guy that he pinch hit for is also a sub-200 hitter. So I don't know what we're doing here. But it's more obvious than that. Austin Hayes hits .310 against lefties. That's your answer. Austin Hayes hits .310 against lefties. And it's easy to say, well, yeah, but, he loves to swing and he loves to strike. Fine. He hits .310 against lefties. That's the answer. Ryan Mountcastle was turned to for a couple of reasons. One, because you had the DH up first. Kyle Stowers was your DH last night. Everybody that's yelling that Kyle Stowers deserves more of an opportunity, I love the thought. And in fact, it's exactly what happened. Kyle Stowers had a big game the night before, and he was rewarded by being allowed to play despite the fact that Ryan Mountcastle is white effing hot. He was given the opportunity to build off of the big game that he had the day before. But in the spot they were in, it made zero sense. There's no a bunch. Well, his minor league numbers suggest he might be able to hit lefties. Maybe. But you don't know that today. And you don't default to minor league numbers to say, here's how I can justify this situation where the game might be in the balance against someone who is a killer against lefties. There's no ambiguity about the data for Bernardino. He murders lefties. I don't know how to say it, but I've been told by, I'll just say someone who knows, how particularly unique Bernardino is against lefties. How incredibly difficult it is to see the ball. That's data that Brandon Hyde has.
And it kind of worked because Mountcastle got a walk. Like, are we upset about a walk?
All of the arguments are stupid. The first argument is, well, then you pinch hit Mountcastle for Mullins and let Stowers hit just because he's gotten hits recently. That's legitimately the argument that people are attempting to make. Well, he's gotten some hits, so let him have his chance. And when he rolls into a double play and you go from first and second and nobody out to a runner on and 2 out and no longer having the ability to keep the inning going, but instead having had to have it come down to either you're getting a hit or the inning is over. 1, what'd you do there? 2, you end up with the same issue. You're going to have to take Mountcastle now out of the game, and you've fired that bullet with no ability to get anything more from it, and you have to fire another bullet. Now you have to put Austin Hayes in defensively anyway for Ryan Mountcastle. Instead, you have the option with 2 on and a white-hot right-handed hitter. Not Ramon Arias. I can't repeat this enough. Ryan Mountcastle, who's been red hot, to come in, replace your DH, and at the same time, you then have the option to bring up someone who hits 300 against lefties should exactly what happened, Ryan Mountcastle walks. Should that play out, you have the option to turn to Austin Hayes in that spot. 10 out of 10 times, it is the correct decision. The crazy part is that sometimes you make the right decision and still don't get the right result. It happens constantly. And when you say things, and I got it, even my buddy Paul Valley from the bat-around, well, it's the feel of the game. That's the feel of the game is understanding this guy is murderers, torturous to left-handed hitters. That's feel of the game. And you have an opportunity. If there's nobody out in that spot, if there's nobody on base in that spot, Kyle Stowers probably hits, right? Because you're not recognizing this as potentially being the spot that could end up determining the game. But in that moment, with 2 on, it's an opportunity. It didn't work. And it falls back on 2 tropes. The first trope that we love to fall back on is, if you just do something else, that would have worked. I mean, we do this in every... Ravens fans do this constantly. Well, if you had just have done something else there, it would have worked.
If they don't cut Ryan McKenna, maybe.
Right, that's a great point. That's a great point. That was what they needed in that spot. Well, he's available again, so who knows? He'll always remember the 5 days he was a San Francisco Giant.
Got a couple wins, I think.
I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I was paying attention to the Giants, so it's where we are. We do this eternally. When something doesn't work out, it's always this simple. If you would have just done this other thing, obviously that would have worked instead. Or confirmation bias. confirmation bias is I don't like Brandon Hyde, so this is Brandon Hyde's fault. Now, I am befuddled. And I think part of it is maybe an adjustment. I think we're really struggling with the organizational philosophy. And I've had to say this to a lot of people recently. The thing that you're mad about, like going to Keegan Aiken last week in a lefty-lefty matchup, the thing that you're mad about, you're imagining that like Brandon Hyde is freewheeling making these decisions. I'm upset that Brandon Hyde personally and specifically is obsessed with data and playing matchups. And when I tell you it's organizational, people legitimately think that what I'm saying is Mike Elias gets on the phone and buzzes down to the dugout and says, you better put Keegan Aiken in here, or you better, bring up Ryan. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is from the top down, this organization has the philosophy that we have the data and the data matters. And there are some people that say data be damned. If that's how you feel, then I don't think you want to have this thing where you're focusing all of your energy on Brandon Hyde is fruitless. Because if Brandon Hyde were to not be the manager anymore, the next guy would be equally obsessed with the data because that's the philosophy of the organization. It is not Brandon Hyde. It is from the top. We have this data. It matters. There's a reason why after the game, Brandon Hyde always knows what these percentages are. Always knows. When he was asked last week about Keegan Aiken facing Nolan Gorman, he knew exactly what Nolan Gorman hit against lefties. Exactly. Because the data matters. It doesn't always work. The opposite to me would be the truth. The truth would be I would beat up a decision or I would debate a decision if the data didn't back it up. If, for whatever reason, and it would be insane, the Orioles pinch hit, if Ryan Mountcastle had been playing last night, Bernardino came into the game, and then they pinch hit a lefty, then I would say, this is bonkers. What is the manager doing? But when the data says this is what you should do, then yeah, that's what you should do. And it wasn't close. Righties hit 100 points better for Bernardino's career than lefties do. 100. It wasn't neutral. That's the other thing, and I ended up getting into this debate last night. If the data is neutral, right? Like if the numbers suggest that there's like a 5-point difference, something like that, then it's a completely different conversation. And you want to say, hey, the feel of the game is that this guy's hot right now. I want to give him a shot. Okay, let's have that conversation. But it's not neutral data that you're dealing with. The data is overwhelming.
Wouldn't it make more sense to be upset? Like, why didn't they try a bunt or try even a squeeze with Mateo at the plate or something like that?
With what is that? With one out at that spot?
Yeah, or even maybe leave Mullins in then and make him lay down a bunt. Like if this is and it did end up being the
yeah. I think that's tough with
the
the bases loaded. With the bases loaded, that's really difficult to try to play for one run. I think that I would always be opposed to that.
Even if it is, Mullins is struggling.
I understand that, but
you don't have a ton of confidence in Hayes, I guess.
But why? Tell me why you don't have confidence in someone who's a 300 hitter against
I'm just trying to make the case for I don't know for something to be up in arms about what happened because it just didn't work.
Things don't work sometimes. Grayson Rodriguez didn't work last night. Do I suddenly believe that Grayson Rodriguez can't pitch? Like, this happens. This is baseball. But we have, and I say we, it's an interesting percentage. There's a weird percentage of Orioles fans that's obsessed with Brandon Hyde. That, they genuinely believe that somehow he's holding the team back, which is badass. And I'm not telling you the guy's Earl Weaver.
If they had a different manager, the Yankees would lose more games.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It really is insanity to watch a team win so constantly and yet be so convinced that the problem, there's a problem, it's the manager. And I have so many theories I've talked about, like that we don't like criticizing the players because we own their jerseys and we don't own the manager's jersey, so it's easier to do that. The coach's jersey, so it's easier. Like it's getting after John Harbaugh when all the team ever does is win. And there are times where I do think criticism can be warranted. Here's something that I can't defend, and I'll tell you I cannot defend Ramon Urias' roster spot. I haven't been able to defend it for months. Now, is that Brendan Hyde? Is that Mike Elias? Is that some combination of the above? There is nothing about Ramon Urias that justifies him being on the roster, particularly while Connor Norby isn't. You can say, well, I don't know about Connor Norby's defense. Well, I definitely don't know about Ramon Urias' defense. There's one season in his career where he was a good defender. Now, that season, randomly, he was a hell of a defender. But it's one. And since that time, and admittedly, I got drunk on it too, since that time, he has not been a quality defender. I can't defend Ramon Urias' roster spot. I'll beat him up over the team on base percentage. Now, again, what's the simple solution? I don't have that. I've said before, I'm struggling with the data that shows that you're getting better pitches earlier in the count, and so maybe you should be aggressive and should be swinging versus what I believe is the value of working a starting pitcher's pitch count. And the fact that I think the data shows that this team is pretty good at hitting with 2 strikes like Jordan Westburg last night.
Jordan Westburg always, but
I'd struggle with that. I think those things are fair, but this Brandon Hyde obsession. And again, it's in spots like this where the data is conclusive about a decision, is obvious. And we just say, well, but you could have just done this other thing. You could have, but you'd be basing that on nothing. Letting Kyle Stowers hit against a lefty last night, could it have worked out? I guess. But now we're getting into crazy territory. Like, I mean, maybe it could work with Austin Hayes if you just let him hit against righties all the time. Maybe. Why don't you just play him every day against righties now? Because maybe it would work. He's hitting like .0 or 0.70 against righties this season, but maybe.
Is he really?
Yeah, it's really bad. It's atrocious. It's bizarro world. I'm so befuddled by it, and it plays into like 6 different theories that I have. But the answer ultimately is sometimes you make the right decision and get the wrong result. And last night, Brandon Hyde made the right decisions and got the wrong result. And, sometimes you got to be critical of the guys that Jorge Mateo didn't get the job done. And we praised Jorge Mateo a lot recently. But in that spot, he didn't get the job done. Obviously, Austin Hayes didn't get the job done. And we can talk more about Austin Hayes, and he'll pop up in Would You Rather Wednesday today if I can ever get that posted. Sorry, I'm late on everything. There's a lot going on. We can talk. You want a real storyline out of last night? The bloom is fully off the Keegan Aiken rose. It's gone. It was fun for a couple weeks to start the season, and he was getting the job done, but there's not even you can't even make the Craig Kimbrell argument, like there's a track record to fall back on. You've got like 3 weeks of good Keegan Aiken, and that's what you got. And other than that, the bloom is off the rose. So what do you do there? I mean, the problem is you still need another lefty. You still need someone. This is difficult. Because I get that we get frustrated about guys that we kind of like. So I guess Nick Vespi is just the argument, right? And that's tough because you just made the move 2 days ago. So you can't bring Nick Vespi back tomorrow. Unless, you feign an injury.
Aiken, of course, yeah.
Right. It happens to...
Oh, the shoulder hurt.
Boy, just real weird how that worked out, that his shoulder ended up hurting. But if you're optioning Keegan Aiken, you can't do it for Nick Vespi. So, what, you doing it for Zimmerman? Is that who you're doing it for? Like, that's the problem that the Orioles run into. I mean, I'm all for, maybe his shoulder is stinging a little bit today. And I don't mean to say that way and be trite about it, but, like, it's the timing on this is terrible. I mean, it's really terrible. That Vespi's the one, like, that's the guy that you would say, let him have an extended look and a chance to prove that he can get lefties out at the major league level, but you can't do that today. That's difficult. All right, we got a lot to do on the program.
And of course, Thiago Vieira is still on the team.
Well, yeah, but that's I don't think they're going to make that decision after one outing. I don't think they put him on the roster. You didn't put. Look, I don't have any thoughts about Thiago Vieira whatsoever. I feel nothing about Thiago Vieira, but I don't think that they're going to bail on it because of one outing. Like, I get it. I have no. He could go tomorrow, and I'd say I don't remember who you are. But they made the decision to put him on the roster. They think there's something there. They're not going to say, well, he got hit one time, so that's that. They're going to give him a more extended look than that. To me, the Aiken thing is the one. Like, Aiken, it's easy to say, well, you could, because he does have an option available. Like, you could just option Keegan Aiken and give Vespi a look, except for, again, you made the move that you made yesterday, so that's not an option today. All right, when we come back in, we are going to chat with our buddy Ross Grimsley, get his thoughts on a bunch of different things related to the Orioles. Ross is an old school guy, so maybe Ross is data be damned type. I'm not sure. But we'll talk to our buddy Ross Grimsley when we come back in. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of GCR presented by Glory Days Grill.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR. Orioles and Red Sox will wrap up their 3-game set tonight. Cutter Crawford on the mound for Boston against Corbin Burns. The finale of the 3-game series for the Orioles and Red Sox. Now the rubber match, and Cutter Crawford has been excellent this season, pitching to a 2.89 ERA. So quite the pitching showdown this evening in Baltimore. And there were a few more, like on Monday, obviously it was overwhelming with Orioles fans. There were a few more Red Sox fans last night and not quite as many Orioles fans. So it'd be kind of nice to maybe have a few more folks show up tonight and drown that out a little bit more. All right. So, yes, that's tonight, rubber match between the Orioles and the Red Sox at Camden Yards. Our next segment is going to be brought to you by our friends out in Hagerstown.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, joining us now here on GCR. We missed him and Luke and Stan on Monday, so I wanted to make up for it because of the holiday this week and get a little Ross Grimsley in our lives here at Press Box. What's going on, Ross? How are you, brother?
Not much, buddy. We're out here in beautiful Las Vegas. We're out for Memorial Day with a couple of friends of ours that from Memphis, but we're doing well.
So
Great time, buddy.
All right, I want to know, because you obviously are the coolest human being that I know. What does a trip to Las Vegas look like for Ross Grimsley at this point? Like, what is it? Gambling? Is it going to shows? Is it playing golf? Like, what is on the docket when you make a jaunt out to Vegas at this time in your life?
You hit two of those on the nose. We got out here on Sunday, last Sunday. We went to see Sebastian Maniscalco.
Oh God, that's great. I love that guy.
My favorite comedian of all time, and we got a chance to see him. And I've watched all of his shows on Netflix and what have you. And it was an all new show, all new material, nothing from the past.
That's awesome.
It was hilarious. The two guys that warm up comedians were very good too. But we did that. Next day we golfed. So
there you go.
Gambling, I don't gamble anymore, and neither does my buddy. He used to be like to gamble a lot. I love the craps, and it's but we just it kind of grew out of it a little bit. I mean, not that we wouldn't do it, but we've been out here Memorial Days the last couple of years ago at the end of COVID. We came here, and then we came here again this year, and we just don't gamble like we used to. It's more cocktail time.
I know. You know what? I have to go through that in my life, Ross, where I say, you know what? I've had my fun, but I got to calm down a little bit. I got to.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun before. We loved the crap table and could play for a little bit. That was fun, but we just kind of drifted away from it a little bit for whatever reason. Just got tired of it. Not saying that I won't do it again, but we just haven't taken the time to do it. We've been doing other things and having a good time.
Well, I'm glad that you get to have that experience, and appreciate you taking a short pause from all of that to spend a couple of minutes with me this morning, pal.
What is it, 8 o'clock in the morning here?
Hey, bro, I can't believe you're awake, to be honest with you. You're in Vegas.
No,
I didn't know this time existed.
Believe it or not, I went to bed at about 9:30 last night. We went to eat to some great places. That we've been staying at the Winds, which is a fantastic place. And great restaurants. So we went out and ate, got back around, I think, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I was exhausted and went right to bed.
Man, you know what?
So the golden years take it out of you, buddy.
All right, let me talk some baseball with you, because there's some things that I've been sitting on recently, some broad topics that I've been discussing.
Yeah.
And I want to get your opinion on a few of them, right?
Sure.
I want to get your opinion, first of all, on balls and strikes, right? Because this, I'm sure that you were sad to see Angel Hernandez hang him up this week, as we all were. I mean, we will greatly miss our sweet Prince, a true legend in the game of baseball. Ross, I'm at the point where, like, I think it's obvious that something is coming, that changes are coming in baseball when it comes to balls and strikes. They've been trying out in the minor leagues, obviously, the challenge system. There is continued conversation about going fully automated balls and strikes, and they've, at lower levels, tried that. I don't get the sense in talking to a number of players that there is an appetite for fully going to ABS.
Right.
And it's interesting, Ross, because, like, I would have thought the pitchers would be the ones that would say yes, because presumably a full automated system would create a much bigger strike zone, right? Because any part of the ball touches any part of the zone, it's a strike, right? But yet even they have kind of said, I'm not sure that I want that, because I think sometimes the pitchers, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, like knowing what an umpire's strike zone is and being able to manipulate it and getting a feel for what the zone is. But where are you with how baseball goes about, because it does seem like something's coming. What is the answer for balls and strikes?
Well, until they make get this thing down pat where it's consistent, I don't think they should put it in. I'm against it anyway. But I mean, if it's not going to be accurate, and I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. It takes the human element out of it, which has always been a part of knowing who the umpire is. I know me going from the National League to the American League, we went from a low strike zone to a high strike zone. I was getting strikes up in the zone in the American League that I thought was a ball in the National League. So that was really a great thing. But as far as I don't think they have the bugs worked out of this yet with the automated ball strike calls. Once they do that, then if they want to put it in, but I don't think they're going to put it in next year, maybe the year after. It's a little bit away, but I think it takes away from just the way the pitchers should know the umpires, and I don't think they do now. If the pitchers were more consistent in the strike zone and throwing the ball where they wanted to, then just like years ago with Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, and those guys, even when I played with Cuellar, McNally, Fergie Jenkins, all these guys that were strike throwers, didn't try to strike everybody out unless there was a guy in scoring position and you needed a strikeout. But you kind of earned the plate from the umpire. If you're able to show the umpire you can throw a ball down the way on the outer part of the plate, the more you do it, the plate gets bigger. Now, is that right or is that wrong? That's nobody had a problem with it, basically. I mean, you were able to throw a ball in a certain spot and showed the umpire you earned the plate on the either inside, outside, up, or down. If you showed the umpire you could throw a ball in a certain spot with command, that plate would get bigger, and you would get calls more often than not. But I really, if you watch some of the games now, you can throw balls off the plate that go over the plate. It's where the ball crosses the plate, not where the catcher catches it. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
So let me follow up with two thoughts, Ross, because the first would be, I don't know if you saw, Dempsey went on a little bit of a rant a couple weeks ago, and his frustration is pitch framing, right? That it's
awful.
It has become cartoonish, right? Like it is embarrassing. And his point, and I don't have all of the data to be able to back it up, but I certainly trust Rick's opinion about this, is that he's seeing that the other skills, the skills that we have needed to see from catchers, blocking, pitch calling, pop time, throw, and we all know it's more difficult to hold runners because of the rules changes in baseball, but still the throws themselves, that they have regressed in all of these areas because it's like the singular focus of the sport is pitch framing. And to me, the automated balls and strikes, and I get it, it's not perfect, but like to me, that's one of the benefits is I want to fire pitch framing into the sun. I don't ever want to, like, the idea that what we're focusing on from catchers is deception is nonsense to me.
It's almost like watching Little League ball now. When I was in Little League, the catchers would catch it and they'd move it about 6 to 12 inches, which they're doing now. I'm going, this is ridiculous. Pitch framing is the most overrated thing in the sport. And, I mean, you will get the low strike, but how pitchers don't pitch down in the zone. They get everybody out up in the zone with strikeouts. So you're taking away, blocking the ball, being able to throw runners out. I mean, you watch catchers catch, they backhand a lot of stuff that you just should get in front of. And Johnny Bench made a comment. I had him on a show one time, and it's receive the ball. Practice on how you receive the ball. And if the pitchers are able to throw the ball, hit a spot, you'll get the calls. But the only thing you're getting now is the low strike, and that you can deceive the umpire with that. But again, it's where the ball crosses the plate, and doing. I tell you, they used to tell the catchers, you will never get a call if you keep pulling that ball in and out or whatever you're trying to do. You'll never get a call, and that was something that you just didn't see that often. The guys doing what they're doing now, and it's all for the purpose of getting the low strike, which makes no sense really. You'll get some calls occasionally, but it's just not. It's not. I don't think it's worth what they're giving up. But it's almost like you watch outfielders, a runner at second base hit to any outfielder, no matter where it's at. I guarantee you, there's almost a 95% chance he's throwing a ball to home plate. Doesn't matter how close it's going to be, it's going to home plate. It's almost like we'll give up the run because we know one swing of the bat we can get 1 or 2, 3 runs on a home run. They just don't hit the cutoff, man. That's a lost art. It's almost run till you tag a guy out. But it's the game has taken a different a swing, and I don't think it's in a good direction. Now people, they're going to go see the games, but I mean the strategy of the game has been not as big a thing and not as much. I'll never forget. I went to in the cards the players have to look at where to play. That is the most. I go to, when I was doing the pregame for the Orioles, 105.7, I went in to see the Giants when they came to play the Orioles, I think in 14. And I knew everybody, on the team, and I knew everybody, the coaches and stuff. So I go in the coach's office and I asked Hensley Mullins, who was the bench coach for Bochy. And I said, do you have one of those cards that you give the infielders and outfielders? He says, I got one from last night. I said, do you care if I look at it? So I looked at it, and I was staring at it. I looked up at him. I looked back down. I said, you mean these guys don't know this?
Right.
And he just kind of went, he goes, we have to get here at 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning to decipher all this stuff that our geniuses, our 22-year-old geniuses, come in and give. And we have to decipher it to give to who you have to give different things to different people because some people can't understand or can't figure it out. But it's a generalization of where a guy hits the ball. It's not left on left, right on right, this guy or that guy. That's what back then. Now, I don't know what the hell they do now, but it's a generalization. The guy hits the ball here most of the time. Left or right doesn't matter. So they're going to go. It doesn't matter what that pitcher has that day. Doesn't matter how hard he's throwing, which way the wind's blowing. It's just a generalization. So that right there, I'm going, are you serious? That takes away. It used to be, you used to watch the infielders. Infielders out, but the ball's on the way to the plate. Wherever the ball was in the zone, the infielders would move, outfielders would move that direction, as the pitch was being delivered. And if you hit the spot and they hit it, there's a good chance somebody would be there. You don't see that often now. You just don't see it. So the game has changed. The people in it have changed. The people teaching it, or the people, a lot of teaching is not done during the game anymore. It's either done before or after.
Right. Just go let the players play and stay out of their way for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, when a guy makes a mistake, no one says nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff. I heard a catcher that caught a 10-year veteran. They never blocked balls in spring training. He said, I never blocked balls one day in spring training. Well, players are on the field a lot less now than ever before. Watch the fundamentals. That tells you right there what's going on. But a lot of scouts I talk to, a lot of people that I know, I ask them about in the minor league level. They don't coach during the games. A lot of them.
Ross,
I mean, that's when you do it. I'll tell you another story. This is great, and I won't tell you the team or who. One of the teams in I think in the complex league.
Okay.
They had a couple of players couldn't get to the field on time. They had a big problem, so they called them into the office. What time do you want to come to the park?
Huh.
And they said, okay, you come at this time, you come at that time. If you can get there at that time, that's the mindset now. The inmates are running the asylum. And that's not everywhere, but that's
if I can
just
get that, if I can
anywhere.
get that gig, Ross, that actually sounds pretty good to me. I don't know where you sign up. I think
really.
I think I might look into that if I can.
But some of the stuff is just absolutely bizarre, and I know Weave and some of these other people are just rolling over in their graves, going, "What has happened to this beautiful game?"
I wanted to you bring up Earl Weaver, right? I want to. Ross Grimsley is with us here on GCR. I just want to get your sense because there's this weird, I don't know, underbelly of Orioles fans, Ross, that don't like Brandon Hyde, right? And
really.
I don't know that Brandon Hyde is Earl Weaver, right? Like I don't know that he's going to be an iconic all-time great manager, but here's what I know. It seems like the players have responded to him pretty well.
Absolutely.
The team does a whole heck of a lot of winning. You're never like we can criticize any decision that doesn't work, right? This is eternally what we do. If you make a decision, you pinch hit for somebody, it's easy to say, well, it didn't work, so it was the wrong decision, right? Like that happens in baseball. But on the whole, it's befuddling to me to not recognize that, like, there appears to be a good connection between the players and the manager, and the team wins all the time. And that, to me, is good enough for me to say, I think he's pretty good at what he does. I think he's developed an environment that everybody is happy in what they're doing. And they talked about getting rid of Mullins. They talked about getting rid of Hayes. Yeah. And they called up Holiday, which I thought was a tremendous mistake. I think they got a lot of push from the media, a lot of push from the fans to do that. This kid wasn't ready to come up here, and a lot of people knew that. And I think the Orioles people knew it. He had some deficiencies. He hadn't played second base very much, and you bring him into this atmosphere. And I know a lot of guys that started the years off struggling and having some problems, but he just wasn't ready for this. And then getting back to Hayes and Mullins, here's two guys, really good defensive players. They're struggling offensively now. You look back, and the pitching has been outstanding. So my point is, you got some defense. Who played center field in the 70s for the Orioles? Paul Blair. Yeah, he's
didn't hit
good.
A lot.
Yeah.
Who played shortstop?
Yeah,
Mark Belanger.
Yeah.
Didn't hit a lot.
Didn't hit at all.
Only against some of the harder throwers, Brian and so.
Right.
But my point is, if you got pitching, the defense is worth its weight in gold. And those two guys, did their thing. But you got to have pitching and defense to be able to do that, and that's what they did. Those guys were tremendous defensive players. And that was great, and that helped the ball club. Now the Orioles, the pitching has been really, outstanding.
Unbelievable.
And there's some injuries of late, but hopefully you got some guys that can step in. Irvin's done a great job. Suarez has stepped in, and I don't think the guys at the minor league level are quite ready to come up and step into this. But depending on how the injuries go, and the bullpen has been, the pitching has been, I think, better than expected.
I think it's been insane how good the pitching has been, and I think Adley Rutschman deserves, a fair bit of credit for the pitch calling. I think that he's been great. I do think that there has to be a line, and I think at the moment I don't think you can have Mullins and Hayes in the lineup together, and I think that's okay, right? Because Mullins can hit against righties and Hayes can hit against lefties, and Colton Cowser can play essentially every day moving forward in the other spot. But you're inclined to ride it out. Like, you're not at a place where you're ready to totally part ways with either Mullins or Hayes at this point.
Well, I mean, it's not even a third of the season's over now.
Yeah.
I mean, if they continue to struggle, and you need offense, that's a different thing. But as long as the pitching is doing what it's doing, you can't just give up on guys because they started off poorly. Well, I mean, the team has been on a move in the right direction, and doing a lot of good things, and bringing new people in is not always the answer. That is seeing enough of that over my career, playing and coaching, that the changing the climate in the locker room and stuff can be kind of iffy. And you got a couple of pretty good guys there in Hayes and Mullins, and they can play defense. Hopefully their hitting picks up, and if it doesn't, then they need to make a change. I'm sure that will happen. But they're winning.
Yeah. Yep.
They're one of the best teams in baseball.
Yep. That's a fact.
And you want to start deep sixing guys because they're struggling. You got to give them a chance, because I tell you what, that sends a message to the people on the team and in the organization. Oh, if we struggle a little bit, they're going to get rid of us. You don't want that, because everybody's going to struggle. And if you give up on them, then that gets around pretty quick, and I think everybody knows the time when the guy is pretty much can't do the job anymore, and then you start doing some things. But at this point, you're winning. Well, why shake the boat? Well, why do you want to do this?
It's a very Yep. I think it's a very fair thought, Ross, and I've struggled with it, right? Because I do think that, the 304 on base percentage is the thing that concerns me, right? Like, as a team, you're not winning a World Series with a 304 on base percentage. Now, to the point, I do think that, as you bring up, hey, those veterans, either they're going to correct themselves, or you're going to get to a point where it's going to become so obvious that you have to go, that you're going to make that decision and trust that the guy that comes in will be better. I do think it can be corrected. But yeah, I don't think that I can ignore, Austin Hayes, still, the numbers say he still hits lefties, right? Like, he's still, and there's value there. And Cedric Mullins, the speed, the defense, every time someone else plays center field, although I think Kowser has settled in a little bit more in center field, but every time everybody else would play center field, you'd be like, yeah, maybe Cedric needs to be back out there. Maybe.
I really think things will work out, and if a move needs to be made, it will come, and everyone will know it. The people that make the decision, Hyde, the coaching staff, they'll know. They'll look. This guy is struggling. He can't seem to get it together. And we need help, because maybe we're not winning again. Maybe we're not winning, as many games as they are, but they're winning. They're going to go through a bad spell here and there, and the guys are going to struggle at times. But you just got to, if you have confidence, that's the biggest thing. Guys lose confidence when they're struggling. They try to do different things, and they just put themselves in a deeper hole. Hopefully, you got, a manager, a coach, and some people around that can right the ship and get them going in the right direction and keep their confidence up and get it back. That's one of the biggest things. Everybody loses their confidence, but you just got to find a way to make adjustments and do little things to get back on track, and just take the littlest improvement and build off of that. That is what guys you have to do. So, I mean, if they can't do it, it'll show, and they'll make a move. But until then, you got to give them a little rope. They've earned that.
Yep. No doubt. All right.
I really believe that, yeah.
Ross, before I let you go, if I could squeeze one in,
sure.
Where's your faith in Craig Kimbrell, who has bounced back nicely of late after what had been a difficult stretch? And I will present it to you this way, Ross. I think Craig Kimbrell can be a valuable leverage arm, and I think when you get to the postseason, you need multiple valuable leverage arms, because you've seen it. You're going and getting your starter in the fifth inning when he gets into trouble in the or the fourth inning in the postseason. And I think you need the guy that you can bring in that spot. So to me, I still think Craig Kimbrell has value. I just feel like you still need to trust that you have a workhorse at the back end of your bullpen, and that's where I don't have the faith in Kimbrell, and I would still be inclined for the Orioles to go try to get that guy at the trade deadline. It's not a shot at Craig Kimbrell. It's not like I think he serves a role. I just don't think he's the guy that I'm trusting to be your ninth inning guy for 3 games in 4 days in the postseason.
No, and I think they knew that when they possibly were hoping that he was that guy, but just the numbers and his age and what he's done. I think they tried that early and they saw it wasn't panning out. And we talked about this earlier before the season when they got him. Great move to get him since you had Batista out, but he's a guy that is going to give you got to take your time with him. You got to give him time in between, pitching back-to-back days. Then you got to give him a little bit of a break. He just is not the guy he once was. He has the stuff, but I think back-to-back days and maybe 3 games in 5 days or 3 games in 4 days, you can't do that with him anymore.
Yeah.
So that being said, you're going to have somebody that either at the end or somebody can do a similar role than him, and they can go back and forth. And I think that's something that if they get – and I've said this, and the pitching is the biggest thing. You got to get – and you got to have a lot of backup. For your starters. The starters have done a great job, but the bullpen, I think you need some really quality strike-throwing arms in there, and some that can pitch back-to-back days. But that's something that the way guys throw now, the effort they put into every pitch and try to spin it, man, you're waiting for an accident to happen, and it's going to happen. I mean, we've seen that everywhere. But I think you can't have enough arms, and you try to get guys in your AAA, 4A players, pitchers on your AAA staff. You can go down as far as AA if you wanted to. But you got to get some backup guys, especially I think in the bullpen. I think the starters will be okay, especially when the guy Kramer and Wells, he's another guy that can step in. Hopefully he'll be all right. Means it's just you just never knew, and that was one of the things we talked about, on the shows, that you just don't know what's going to happen with him because he's had a deal with injuries and what have you. Kramer, that's something new. I don't know what I think he's going to start throwing here shortly, but that's something. Hopefully, it's a minor, but I think the bullpen is key to get some. Maybe even a couple arms.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
That will. And again, I think it'll pan out, and I think they have the pieces to go out and get these guys. Because if you want to win, and you got not all of your prospects are going to make it to the big leagues, as they're going to make it to the big leagues, but to stay there and be productive, that's usually don't happen with all of them. You're lucky if you get a few of them, but depending on all of them to be hits, I don't know. That just doesn't happen very often.
Or as they're already finding right now, they even have spots for all of them is a different.
Really? No, and that's exactly right.
Yep.
So if you can get something to help you, it's about winning now, and they're right on the cusp of really being a World Series team, I think. And again, the injuries, you just don't know about that, can cause some problems. But I think you're pitching wise, you're a few pitchers away, probably in the bullpen. If they can get some of those guys, then the defense and hitting is going to carry itself, and carry the team, because you got the pitching to the guys. They throw strikes. They're around the plate pretty well. They got a lot of swing and miss stuff, which is good to a point. But I really think they're on the right. And with Brandon Hyde, I think he's really done a good job, and he's created a climate in the clubhouse and on the field that the guys enjoy coming out every day, busting. They work on stuff all the time. This is from scouts that I see, and a lot of teams don't do that. So they obviously enjoy what they're doing. They have a good time, and they play hard. That's one thing the Orioles do. They play hard.
No question.
They run balls out. They just do a lot of stuff these other teams don't do. And that's going to get you a long ways, I really believe.
Ross Grimsley, please give our best Bird, right? And
sure will, buddy.
Enjoy the rest of your trip out there in Vegas, and you'll be back with Stan and Luke on Monday afternoon, I assume.
You got it, man. You got it, buddy.
Love you, brother. Always appreciate you.
Man.
Thanks for hopping on.
Take care.
It's the great Ross Grimsley checking in with us here on GCR. And, yeah, you get Ross going. You get Ross going about, old school baseball stuff, and you can end up in an adventure, and he can turn into a venting session. But I do appreciate some of those thoughts. Now, obviously, we agree about Craig Kimbrell. I'm happy that Craig Kimbrell has stabilized. Made my 3-up list this week because he's been beat up, and yet he stepped up in some spots and he got the job done. And I just wanted to recognize that. Obviously, he was aided by an interference call the other night, but the game was in peril, and he came in. You all right over there? Everything good? You got a microphone problem that we got to solve? All right, we'll look into that at some point and see what happens. I'm not sure what the deal is, but we will try to figure it out. I think Craig Kimbrell, and I said this even as he was struggling, I think he can be beneficial to this baseball team. I just don't think it's as your workhorse ninth-inning guy for the rest of the season. And it does become difficult now as Craig Kimbrell succeeds again. It might then create the problem of if he's getting the job done and then they go out and they acquire a closer anyway, like, does that become an issue? Like, dude, I'm doing the job. Does it make it more difficult for Brandon Hyde to go in and say, hey, yeah, I know you're 12 out of your last 12, but we still feel like we have to do better than that? I don't know. Not for me.
Like, I think to Ross's point, I think they do have to be careful with it. Like, you probably can use them on back-to-backs, but then you need to rest them for 2, maybe even 3 days.
Well, but I think the question becomes: are you bringing in someone else who can be the backup closer when Craig Kimbrell has been used? To me, the answer is no. You're saying to Craig Kimbrell, dude, you're still valuable, and we want to use you in leverage spots. It's that we want our ninth-inning guy to be a workhorse. We want to have that guy. So you're still a closer on this baseball team. I'm glad that you are performing better. I'm glad that you've gotten your issues sorted out. But we're just not doing this. And that's difficult, and then again might create a problem with a veteran player, and how you massage that and figure that out, I don't know. It's going to have to be somebody else's problem. But I'm not allowing it to be the thing that impacts my season. Like, that's not going to be the thing that ends up bringing it all down. All right. Today's show also brought to you, my brain is all over the place, also brought to you by Sports and Social. Inside Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, Sports and Social is the best place to watch all of the playoffs. We're getting ready for the finals. Not quite set in the NBA, obviously, with Minnesota holding off Dallas in Game 4 last night. Boy, it looked like it was going to play out the exact same way as every other game in the series. Minnesota had a lead in the second half, and they just start missing some shots.
Basically the same as the Eastern Conference
Of
Finals.
all of the things for Karl Anthony Towns jacking up threes, being the way that Minnesota survived last night is wild, Jack, wild. But yeah, to watch the finals, to watch all the big fights.
This weekend.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Islam and
that's right. Yeah, the pay-per-view, you can watch it in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. And it's the atmosphere is second to none, the giant media wall, the great food and drink specials, all of it at Live Casino and Hotel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. So make sure you're there. All right. When we come back in, we're going to play a little Would You Rather Wednesday presented by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, of course, I love them, and we got a $25 gift card to give away for someone who participates. I've got the scenarios up on Facebook. I'm going to be posting them up on Twitter in just 1 second, at Glenn Clark Radio on both for you to play along. We'll do it, and our buddy Matt Valdez from the Sports Junkies is going to join us to be a part of that as well. So that's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Hey, O's fans, on Saturday, June 1st, cheer on the Orioles as they take on the Tampa Bay Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards at 4:05. The first 25,000 fans 15 and over will receive an Anthony Santander walk-off bobblehead presented by Royal Farms. Come out early. Gates will open 2 hours prior to the first pitch for Early Bird Saturdays with happy hour, live music, and more. Don't miss all the action and excitement of an evening out at the yard. Buy your tickets today at Orioles.com/tickets.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program presented by Glory Days Grill. I did not watch. This is a straight. When the basketball game ended last night, I saw that the hockey game was going to overtime, and I'm like, I'm gonna get over. For the first time, I'm gonna watch some hockey in this postseason. Like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do that hockey. Said, man, I feel bad. It's not like I hate hockey. It's a bandwidth issue. I love playoff hockey. I'm going to do it. And so as soon as the basketball game ended, I flipped over to ESPN just in time to see a replay of the Panthers' game-winning goal in overtime. And I got to watch no hockey. So I have still watched zero hockey all postseason.
Keep making me nervous, the Rangers do.
Do you have a bet on that?
Yeah,
What do you have?
win the Eastern Conference.
When did you get in on that?
I got it like plus 140.
It's not really. All right. I mean, it's.
I was like thinking, should I cash out? But like before the game started, and then they like what were they? They were up 1-0, and then they went down, and then I think I'm just gonna have to ride it at this point.
Yeah, I still think they're gonna win. I mean, like they do a series tied 2 games apiece. They're going back to New York for Game 5. I think they're probably gonna win that series.
But I don't know.
I get it.
I
get it. And then I was thinking that maybe if the basketball series had ended last night, then I would have plenty of time to consider watching some hockey moving forward, especially Thursday night because the Orioles aren't playing tomorrow night, and there would be no basketball game in that scenario. So, what else would I watch besides the hockey? But there will be a basketball game tomorrow night.
The National Spelling Bee is this week, actually.
Oh, great. That's a great point. You can't miss that. And that's down at National Harbor, too. Maybe we should go.
Really?
Maybe we should. I'm gonna pass. I got too much going on this week.
Something.
I got to do the charity car wash on Saturday. I'm emceeing the Baltimore 10-miler. I'm gonna try to check out the Let's Go. I agree. I said yes to way too many things this weekend. Entirely too many things. I'm missing the trivia playoffs, letting the whole team down. It's just gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be a nightmare. But yeah, I tried. I really did. I tried to watch hockey last night. Plus, the French Open's going on right now, so it's very difficult for me to even do the show at the moment because all I want to do is watch tennis.
Rains in France?
Yeah, apparently. Who knew? It's been raining a good bit during the French Open, which they've got, 3 courts now, I think, that have roofs, so they can play at least some.
They've moved into the 21st century.
Well, no, they've been, they did that a couple years ago. This isn't. I think they just added one more this year with a roof. So it's not like there's no tennis going on. But
what happened to Nadal? I mean, I guess he's just not.
He played Zverev in the first round.
So why did that happen? Like why
because he hadn't had any rankings points. He hadn't played, so he had no rankings points. So he was.
They still let that happen that he matches up with Zverev.
Dude, they do a draw. Like that's the way it works. They put names and they pull them out. And then when they pull them out, you say, well, that's interesting. And that's what they got. They got a first-round matchup between Nadal and Zverev. So it's a bummer. I mean, it's a huge bummer. And I'm really sick about the idea that that's going to be his final French Open match because Zverev's a piece of crap. And it was very uncomfortable. It was very, very uncomfortable. All right, go ahead and call Valdez, and we'll play Would You Rather Wednesday here in a second. Don't forget that the print issue of Press Box is still available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Great cover story from our friend Luke Jackson, all about Grayson Rodriguez. Go pick that up today at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of those hundreds of locations around town, or you can read the entire thing at PressBoxOnline.com. And there's about a little bit more than 2 weeks remaining on that print issue before the new print issue will hit stands. So again, you're good there. Go get that. Then you can pick up the new one about mid-June. All right. We continue along here on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program presented by Glory Days Grill. Would You Rather scenarios are up, both at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter and Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. By the way, I did see the bit where they finally changed it. You can't go Twitter.com/Glenn Clark Radio anymore.
They finally.
You're not going to get me to do it. It's going to be Twitter. I'm sorry.
Well, why do they still have the feather for when you're trying to?
We're not going to do that today. We're not going to do that.
What
Just saying, you're not going to get me to change. Sorry, it's what it is. I'm 40 years old. I am who I am.
You're a man.
Everybody's gonna come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. That's where we are. All right. I got a text this morning from my buddy Matt Valdez from the Junkies down on 106.7 The Fan, and it was interesting. And I said, all right, bro, come on, let's talk about it, and then you can play Would You Rather Wednesday with me. So, of course, 106.7 The Fan in D.C., Monumental Sports Network. He is our friend Matt Valdez, and he's back with us now here on GCR. What's going on, Valdez? How are you, bro?
Glenn, how are you? Thanks for having me, and thank you for letting me workshop my hot takes with you this morning.
Hang on. Before we get to that, I need to know, because I believe we are similarly white. Like, I think that we are as white goes, I think we're in about the same category. Are you a Can Jam guy?
A Can Jam? Actually, I'm a big bocce ball guy.
Oh, I love that. I love
that.
But
I've seen Can Jam. I'm intrigued by Can Jam. But I think in terms of my seeding, it would be like a 5 seed.
Oh, that's rough. So that is my go-to yard activity, Can Jam. I actually host a Can Jam tournament.
Obviously, cornhole is on the Mount Rushmore. But I'm a big ladder golf guy, big bocce ball guy. I like paddleball too. Something about
which one is paddleball? I don't even know that I know what paddleball is.
It's the small ball with the wooden paddles, and then you just try and volley and see how many volleys you can get.
That's what that
is.
Screws
it up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. You just like you're down the ocean. You like to have your ankles in the water.
Yeah. Have something. Okay. All right. I'll listen to that.
I'm pretend I'm Rafa losing.
Okay. So here's my issue. I'm a tennis guy, right? Like the way that you are a golf guy, and I know that that's your. I am that way with tennis. Like it's impossible. I know your buddy Drab T-shirt. He's the same way. I'm obsessed with the French Open. I play tennis constantly, so I have actually side-eyed pickleballers. Like they drive me insane. You're taking my tennis courts. Go F yourself. I just want to get a workout in, and this is the way that I can run because Lord knows I'm not just going to go for a run. That day is not going to happen. It's hell. Playing tennis accomplishes for me what running would, and pickleball doesn't. It's not a workout. It's just going out and knocking a ball around. But they introduced a pickleball variation of Can Jam, and I can't tell if it's brilliant or, as your friends might say, hurting. I can't decide which way that I feel about it, so I need the opinion of others. So I need you to do me a favor today and search Pickleball Can Jam and tell me if this would actually be a fun game to play with your friends in the yard. All right? Can you do that for me today?
I'm on it. I'll let you know. I'll give you my verdict later.
I appreciate that. Now we get to the important stuff. You have a theory. You have a thought process about what's going on in the Orioles front office, and I want to talk about it with you.
All right. I guess this is a mission statement. And let me start by saying I think Elias has done wonders for this organization. I think he's been the spearhead for all of the change that has happened with the Orioles organization, and I'm thrilled with the job he's done. And I don't want people to come attack me for what I'm getting ready to say. But I feel like Elias loves the fact that everyone is praising him for his draft picks and for his development, and he loves seeing the Orioles at number one on the prospect rankings. He loves seeing all of his shiny toys ranked so highly in Baseball America, SI, whatever it may be. And I feel like he is scared to make the decision because we're coming to a crossroads right now where some of these players are just going to be expendable, not for the fact that they stink, but for the fact that there's just not enough positions on the baseball diamond for all of these prospects. And he needs to come to a decision sooner rather than later because this team has World Series aspirations to make a trade for whether it's a bat off the bench, whether it's for a closer, whether it's for reliever help, but a decision needs to be made and prospects need to be traded, and he is scared to make the wrong decision. He is scared for a prospect like Connor Norby to thrive in a different organization because he will be the scapegoat if the trade doesn't work out and a prospect ends up developing with another team.
So I have a couple of interesting follow-ups to this because I think there is an element of that I find believable. I would tell you the Norby thing to me is the most frustrating. Ramon Arias offers nothing to this baseball team.
I completely agree with you.
He is. We keep trying to hide behind the idea that it's his defense. 2022 was a wild outlier. Every data point that we have since 2022 suggests he's not a high-level defensive player, and he's not playing anyway. So you have a right-handed bat. You desperately need another right-handed bat. Connor Norby clearly should be here, and yet he's not. And I have assumed that the reason for that is because we want to keep him there to make him the trade chip that we are willing to part ways with. And what we don't want is for him to come up to the big leagues and the numbers not look good, and for some reason that to impact, and I've never understood why this would be the case, for that to impact his trade value. Because my thought process has been more along the lines of we want to trade anything but we've separated. These are the guys, right? It was Westberg, it was Kowser, obviously Jackson Holiday, Kobe Mayo, Samuel Basayo. We want to make those guys untouchable, and we want to do all of our trades from the next group of guys. And we've seen Hernandez, Prieto, Joey Ortiz. They've been willing to deal those types of players, but I've just gotten the sense they don't want to deal from that top group. And for some reason, I've convinced myself that like Norby is where they believe the second group starts. And that's the guy that they want to make. If they're going to make a trade, they want to make him the centerpiece so they can keep all the top guys, but trade from the second group of guys in order to do this.
I would agree with you, and then that makes sense because we saw Kjerstad get 17 at bats before being sent back down, and that's not a great sample size for a player. But like you said, someone could get scared by the numbers of Kjerstad before being traded. And I texted you this scenario, and Elias has about 5 of these scenarios that he has to go through in his head. Right. And I think it was in the early 2000s. It might have been 2004, around that time. There was a huge discussion about the second base position between Brian Roberts and Jerry Hairston Jr. Both were prospects. Both were kind of getting equal playing time, but at some point you couldn't platoon both of them. You needed to make a decision because you just couldn't keep both. Now, Elias has about 5 of those decisions he needs to make. And back then, people were Team B-Rob or they were Team Hairston. Yep. Unfortunately, I was Team Jerry Hairston Jr.
I love Jerry Hairston. I love Jerry Hairston, bro.
I was wrong. So I was wrong. I would have made the wrong decision, but he has those decisions he has to make. And I really do feel like, and like I said, I'm not trying to push him down, or I'm not trying to make him look bad. But I feel like he's afraid that the decision will backfire. And all of this praise that he's gotten the last 2 years, all of a sudden the worm turns and he becomes I can't believe he dealt Norby. I can't believe he dealt Mayo. I can't believe he dealt Kjerstad. And then the narrative behind it just all of a sudden changes. And I feel like he's scared of it.
I think the interesting part is I don't know. I hear your theory. I don't know that it's fear as much as it's just I don't want to. Like, I just simply don't want to move on from these players that I genuinely believe are all quality major leaguers. I think that what you're talking about it is obviously right now it's front and center, which is these guys
it's an embarrassment of riches. It is an embarrassment of riches. Yes. And someone on your digital staff needs to Photoshop Elias with every prospect's head with the hoarders with the hoarders caption behind it.
So
he's just hoarding all of these prospects.
Okay, but
for what?
Here's my issue, right? Like, what are you trading them for? Because the answer a couple weeks, the biggest area of need appears to be closer, right? Go get a closer. Now, the problem being, the price that the Athletics are going to ask for Mason Miller is going to be like Mayo plus Kjerstad. You want to do that? Is that really what you want to do? Do you really want to trade like that much to go get Mason Miller?
No, I don't want to, but I just don't want him to sit on his thumbs and do nothing. That's what's making me so frustrated. And the worst part about it is that we're just going dumpster diving for all of these castaways,
right?
To help our bullpen, and and in the playoffs, it's just going to bite you in the ass. And I just don't want to do it. And for every Yanier Cano you find, for every Suarez you find, you're going to find an Aiken that's just going to blow it for you in the postseason. You're going to find a Fuji that
you're tantalized by how hard he can throw the ball,
and you can't fix them. Right. And I don't want to keep doing that motion. I'm willing to get rid of capital to try and get off this merry-go-round of finding TJ Maxx relievers that are at a bargain price.
I wholeheartedly agree with the thought. I just don't want to deal away like legitimate rock star players for bullpen arms, like that aren't special, right? Like I'm in this tough spot. I think it's the one they have to acquire multiple arms before the deadline. Multiple. Like, I think they need a legitimate. Boy, Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals is the guy that I'm staring at the moment as being practical. I don't think Mason Miller's practical. I think the cost is astronomical.
We share the same brain. I'm the same way with you. I think Miller is it's unattainable at this point. The price is too high, and I'm willing to part ways with a secondary option.
I think that Helsley is the price. I think that in their mind, they want to do a Helsley for Norby. Like, we don't want the price to be Mayo. We don't want the price to be Kjerstad. We want the price to be Norby for going out and getting that guy. And I don't blame them for that. Now, will it work? I don't know. And this is where it comes back to what happened a year ago. Like, I can go back and be fair and criticize and say they didn't want to give away top pieces to acquire a pitcher last year. Instead, they got stuck with Flaherty, and Flaherty stunk. And Flaherty, and we have to acknowledge that like for all of the good things that Mike Elias did, the trade deadline was a huge loss. And it's not that I think that Prieto or Drew Rom is going to be a star, and I'm so terrified of the fact that they gave up on him. It's that they needed to do better than that. Like, they needed to get someone that would come in and really make a difference, and they didn't. They got Jack Flaherty, and it was a massive failure at the deadline a year ago. So I think that's a fair thing to criticize. They want the price to come to them, and the question will be, do you ultimately end up being obsessed over the price or getting the right player? Because if it's obsession about getting the right player, then you might have to pay beyond the price that you want to pay.
Well, I just don't like. I don't like the image of Elias sitting in his bunker with 10 billion jars of ragu, waiting for the nuclear holocaust.
This is where I don't think it's that. I really do. And I like your boy Jason Lockenfor is all over that. Like, I don't think it's just hoarding for the sake of hoarding. I think that they are so like Pythagorean driven. Like that Yale.
Please don't call Lockenfor. Please don't call Lockenfor.
I thought he was your guy because he comes on with you guys. I thought that might be a thing.
He hasn't been on in a long
Oh, really? I didn't know that. All right, so my bad. Anyway, the moral of the story being, I don't think it's hoarding for the sake of hoarding. I think they are obsessed with, it's almost like the Ozzie Newsome thing. We genuinely believe that we know exactly what someone's value is. And if we're not getting exactly what someone's value is, then we don't want to do it. And, in the same way that Ozzie got it wrong, like the Anquan Bolden thing, he got wrong. He genuinely said, I think that this guy's value is $4 million a year. And he was wrong. Like, it happens. Even the geniuses get things wrong sometimes. I do think it's that this can happen. But I think it's less about hoarding for the sake of hoarding and more about we'll make the move when we believe the value is correct. And their Yale educations are saying this is what we think the value is.
But also, don't you feel like at some point that we've praised him too much to the fact that he's scared of what happens if he makes a wrong decision?
I don't know about that. I don't know if it's scared about making the wrong decision. Maybe there's an element of that. I keep coming back to, dude, it's hard for me to have conversations with these guys because they're so much smarter than me, bro. Like, they are so much.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I know. The way that I try to profile it is like now I have to think of everything in a Pythagorean way because that's the way they're thinking. Like when people are flipping out about Brandon Hyde turning to, why wouldn't you let Kyle Stowers hit there? It's like, dude, because he has all of the data. Because he is overwhelmed with data. And he's not out there freewheeling like, here's what I think we should do. The organization has decided we know that left-handers get murdered by Bernardino, so we're not putting a left-hander up in that spot. We're going to Ryan Mountcastle because the game's on the line. That's organizational, man. Like, that's the way they think. The data matters to them. So the data matters in this spot to them, too. They think they've got a value for somebody, and if that value is met, I think they'll make the move, but I think that they believe that it's not going to be met. And, dude, the other part of it, too, is that, like, and this is going to get into Would You Rather Wednesday because we're going to play that right now. The Hayes, Mullins, Santander thing is complicated all of this because in a world where they haven't had great seasons the last couple of years that have been a big part of the reason why the franchise has gotten turned around, it's way easier to say, see ya, right? Like, all these, Kowser's going to play, Kerstad's going to play. We're not freaking out about all of these prospects and having too many guys, but it's such a tough spot for them to be in because Hayes has been helpful, Mullins has been helpful, Santander has been helpful. They are a big part of the reason why the franchise has turned around the last couple of years, but all of them have been bad this season. And it's a fine line between just casting them aside for nothing, which I think the easiest thing to say, dude, the easier thing for me is in hindsight, they absolutely should have traded Austin Hayes away last offseason. Like, that last offseason, they should have recognized and said, we got too many dudes.
The value was so high. He's never going to be hotter.
Right.
And to be honest with you, this is an outlier.
We've got to make the move now. We've got to take anything that we can get for Austin Hayes because we're going to have a problem moving forward where we're going to have too many dudes. And somebody could say, well, but you don't have a lot of right-handed hitters, and that's probably fair, but, like, You do have some. Connor Norby is a right-hander. Connor Norby could be playing. Kobe Mayo, before he got hurt, could have been an option here too. That, to me, is the easier thing to say, is that you wouldn't have gotten value for Mullins because he had been hurt so much last season. That would have been a tough thing to do. But Hayes had a good enough of a season that there could have been some value there in the trade market. It was time to make that move. And there would have been a percentage of fans that would have said, dude, what are you doing? Why are you moving someone who's helpful when you're acquiring
an all-star?
Right? That would have been a problem. But that's the Rays model, right? Like, maximize when you have the value, make the move. And if you're not going to sign the guy long-term anyway, and I think most of us assume they weren't signing Austin Hayes, in hindsight, that was the move, and I think it got complicated by the fact that the team was about to be sold and nobody knew that, and it made everybody's life difficult. And so I don't know. I get your theory. I just don't know how much of it I'm putting on Elias. With that said, would you rather Wednesday? Would you rather?
Okay.
Today, the Orioles option either Hayes or Mullins.
Okay.
Today, they make that move boldly, or no, they're too valuable. They still offer enough. Hayes as a hitting against lefties, and Mullins because of his speed and defense. I can't do it yet.
Oh, that's a tough one. You know what? This is what the team reminds me of. You ever see the comedy classic Vegas Vacation?
I have.
And
of course, I've seen the comedy classic.
And Chevy Chase is at the Hoover Dam, and Randy Quaid needs his damn bait, and Chevy Chase takes Rusty's gum and is plugging a leak that's in the dam. All right, and then all of a sudden another leak sprouts.
Yep.
That's kind of what is going on with all of these players. You know, if someone struggles, there's another player in the pipeline, or there's another player that's on the bench that you can try and plug in and try and plug the hole that's currently for the week of the lineup. So I would say do the deal, DFA one of them, preferably Hayes, because at least Mullins has speed and has a glove and seems to be hitting the ball better now the last 2 days. But it's almost like an addition by subtraction. No one can complain more about non-production in the lineup, and no one's kind of scared of not producing in the lineup because they have someone looking over their shoulder. So I would say do it, preferably Hayes, and it's almost like an addition by subtraction.
All right, go with me on this one because it's stupid, but just ride with me on this. Would you rather?
You know I love stupid.
Yeah, the Baltimore has been granted an expansion NBA team. Just deal with it, all right? And this is it's even weirder. Every player in the league is available in the expansion draft. It's wild, right? It's wild. Every player in the league is available, with the caveat that whoever you take at number 1 overall, you've got to give them a 10-year contract.
Okay.
Max deal. Would you rather? Would you rather that number 1 pick be Anthony Edwards or Luka Doncic?
Edwards in a heartbeat, just because he's 22.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? He plays more like Jordan. It's more fun to watch.
He's
a high flyer.
He can fly.
I mean, he's a high flyer.
But I'm
taking
a
the youth.
little bit worried about how tired he's been. Like, that's not a great sign that a dude plays 1 7-game series and all of a sudden he's exhausted by it.
And also, you know what? I don't like players that whine to the refs.
Okay.
That's all Luka does.
All right.
I don't like that.
Bro, he's a killer though, man. Like
I know he is.
This one is particularly difficult for me, and I had to make it 10 years because I thought if I left it at 7, then everybody would just say Doncic because he'd only be 32 at 7. So I do think 10 makes it complicated. I am not, man. Doncic is such a killer. Like I'm struggling with it because I love Edwards. Like I love Edwards, but this series has hurt me. It's hurt me.
It's just his footwork and the way he flies through the air, very Jordan-esque.
Yep, no doubt.
Plus being 22.
All right, and number 3, would you rather? I can promise you the Orioles are going to reach the World Series this year. I can make you that promise if every time you consume an alcoholic beverage this summer. Oh, I wish you could see this. I was sent this.
I saw it.
Oh, did you see
it on your Twitter.
Okay,
it looks like a shot of curdled cheese.
Yes, correct. It's a mac and cheese shot is what it is. Every alcoholic beverage you consume this summer has to be either a variation of that. So if it's not a shot, it's a cocktail, whatever you want to make it, it's a mac and cheese shot. Or you know what? I'll let them take their chances. I trust they can get there anyway.
Well, Glenn, I am a team player.
Look
so
at
I,
you.
Of course,
Look at you,
so
hero.
Of course, I would do the.
Look at you,
of course
hero.
I would do the mac and cheese shot. And you know what? I am sponsor friendly, so I would wash it down with Glory Days Glory Sauce.
Look at you, you hero. I love you. We'll send you a $25 gift certificate today. We'll make that move. At Matt_Valdez on Twitter is how you follow him. Of course, Monumental Sports Network every morning and 106.7 The Fan in DC. Also available on the Odyssey app.
That's
where
right.
I hear they have a rewind function or something. I am not. I gotta improve. You're a better company man than I am, Valdez.
You know what the rewind feature means? It just skips.
That's exactly what it means. It's actually kind of nice too, though. All right, I love you, buddy. Appreciate you. Let's do it again soon. All right.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to my rant.
See you, buddy. It's Matt Valdez. Real quick, where are you with Would You Rather Wednesday? So number one. Would you rather they go ahead and make the bold move and not DFA? It's not DFA because they both have options.
As long as it's Hayes.
You would option Hayes.
I mean,
you don't have a lot of right-handed bats.
Because it is tough, like with Arias. Like, does this mean
this is the thing. Yes, that's the thing. This is what makes it difficult for Would You Rather Wednesday because you can't step in and say no, I'd rather option or DFA Arias. You don't get that choice. I'm not giving it to you. You have to do it with Hayes.
I think the answer is no.
Okay.
It's and to your point, I have Cedric Mullins jersey too. So
you can't do that, right? That's not the way that it works. Number two.
And he's on my fantasy team. For better, which is not good.
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. He had 4 stolen bases last week.
Yes,
so
he needs to keep doing that.
You had that going for you. Number two, Doncic or Edwards.
Probably Anthony Edwards.
He is younger. You asked me a week ago, and it was obvious, right? Like a week ago, and I'm like, dude, Anthony Edwards in a heartbeat. Doncic is a killer. I just was so expecting last night it all to play out again. Like
Jokic over either of them.
How old is Jokic at this point?
27, maybe.
I feel like that it starts to push it a little bit, right? Like, Doncic is 25.
Oh, he's 29.
Yeah, no way.
Well, what if you?
Yeah, this is different.
Make it so you take away the 10-year contract.
Then yeah, of course. But I presented it the way I presented it for a very specific
even if it is
reason.
10 years, I'll go LeBron.
It's dumb. It's so dumb. I presented the way I presented it purposely. I get it. Like, that's the argument for Anthony Edwards. If it was 7 years, I feel like everybody would say Doncic because he'd be 32 at that point. So, like, it's tough for me, man. Like, Doncic is a killer. He's already got it. I think I might end up leaning Doncic again. It's also bitter because the Suns had the chance to draft him. They took DeAndre Ayton.
I mean,
that's what it is.
They're gonna win. Like, they're gonna win the Western Conference. So when they beat the Celtics, it is gonna be like, yeah, duh, of course you want Doncic.
Right.
So.
And number three,
your tired thing, like,
because I don't. Maybe, but it is. I feel like that's at 22 you shouldn't be getting. I understand that, but at 22 I don't feel like you should be getting tired because of one 7-game series. I think that's concerning.
About a supporting cast, I mean, Mike Conley's
Mike Conley's been helpful, but he's been helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it doesn't explain him being gassed.
Maybe get another 28.
Like him being gassed is concerning, man. I can't get around that. He's gassed. I don't get that. All right, number 3.
This was the
mac and cheese shots.
So is it like a mac and cheese beer? I can like.
No, it's good mac and cheese shot, or it's a variation. It's gonna be a cocktail. It still has to be all of the.
I didn't even see the picture.
Oh, hang on, I'll tell you exactly what's in it. Then we got to call Barry Svrluga. The mac and cheese shot, which by the way, Tim in Bel Air sent for us and said this is gonna have to be our next bet, and he's probably right. I just don't know exactly what it's going to be. So mac and cheese shots, vodka. Mac and cheese flavoring packet, and milk. That's it.
So what is it? It's every day? Not every day.
Every time you consume alcohol. And if you don't consume alcohol, you have to consume a virgin version at least once a week.
Well, okay, only once a week's not bad. I'm trying to think.
So gross.
Trying to think about how much we're drinking.
Oh God! Like they actually in the video they like show the shot glass after the sip was taken. And it's just like you have that, you can see the texture, and you're like, no, thank you.
The Orioles will reach the World Series.
Reach the World Series. Not telling you that they'll win, that they'll reach the World Series.
World Series game in Baltimore.
You would get that 100%.
The Ravens will be playing though, so.
What's that have to do with anything?
Well, I mean, I'll be watching the Ravens.
Okay.
It's like I don't need the World.
What is your point?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to not have to drink this.
I understand that. So then say that you just let them. You think they can get there on their own?
They probably can.
All right, call Barry Svrluga. Continue to get me your responses. What the hell did I just say? Continue to get me your responses at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. Someone who participates will win a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill, where I would highly recommend the wing platters. Make a very good option for graduation parties. We're in the throes of graduation party season, and those Glory Day wing platters are Glory Days Grill wing platters. What am I doing? They're perfect for a graduation party. GloryDaysGrill.com, of course, is the website. All right. Our next guest wrote an interesting column for the Washington Post last week, and
reconnecting with him. Hold on.
Oh well, sorry, we had an issue apparently. We'll get that figured out. These Orioles are a threat to win everything that's out there. As he was at the Orioles game on Monday in Baltimore, as the Orioles, of course, outslugged the Red Sox en route to an 11-3 victory. And that, of course, being the game that you hold up and say, boy, why can't they all be like this? Why couldn't there eternally be 15 base runners per game for these Baltimore Orioles, and you move station to station and you put runs and innings together? Let's talk about it a little bit more. Joining us now here on GCR, he is Barry Svrluga from the Washington Post. Barry, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking some time for us this morning.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Barry, I think that we're all kind of feeling it here in Baltimore, right? Like we know, in fact, our conversations have sort of led to like the context of you have to make decisions based on winning a World Series. I think that we really have reached like a line of demarcation that we are far past this being a good story or the rebuilding has worked, and into the point where viably everything that you look at is this team is capable of doing this and winning a World Series as early as this season.
I think you have to think of it that way, Glenn. And I think last year really was the good story. And even extend back to the year before 2022 when, surprisingly, the team was maybe in position to add at the deadline, even though that probably wasn't prudent. And ultimately they traded Trey Mancini. I think it was a smart thing to do long term. But
right
now it's add. I mean, you look at this roster and this lineup, it's flexible, it has power, it's deep. I know not everybody's off to the greatest start in the world, but that's a lineup to be reckoned with, scoring more than 5 runs a game right now, and can hit you from all sorts of angles. It's really athletic. You can run, you can hit for power. So that's a good place to start. If you talk about in the postseason and a rotation now, last year it was like, well, who are they going to start in the postseason? There weren't the obvious kind of A1 alphas to take the ball in game one. Now, you've got Corbin Burns. You've got Kyle Bradish. Grayson Rodriguez, instead of being forced into a role he's not ready for, is like your number 3. Do they need a bullpen arm? Right. Everybody needs a bullpen arm. You go out and add at the deadline. But I think that the way Mike Elias has built this was painful to start, but very, very purposeful along the way. And it's to get to this position not just in 2024, but for years to come.
So let me cover a couple of those things that you brought up, because, again, in the context of how do they win a World Series, there's 2 things that do stand out to me about this team in the difference between being good and being World Series contending. You bring up the bullpen. Barry, I think that Craig Kimbrell, who has looked much better of late, it can still be a valuable leverage arm. And I think that we have seen in recent history that in the postseason, you need multiple closers. You need a 5th inning closer when you get into some trouble. I think he can help. But I'm still of the opinion they need multiple arms, and I think they need one of them to be like a workhorse type, true 9th inning guy, the guy that can go out there 3 times in 4 days if necessary and deliver for you. I just don't think Craig Kimbrell is the guy that I'm trusting to be a deep playoff run closer at this point. Even if he stabilizes, I feel like they need to go get, a Helsley. I don't think it's going to be Mason Miller, somebody like that.
I don't disagree with you at all, but I also think you almost want to think of this as like in bulk, because I don't think even in the postseason roles are as defined as they once were. That's not to say that you don't have the guy you would like to go to in the 8th, the guy you would like to go to in the 9th. But I think what you find with the days off in the postseason, that you're going to have your regular best relievers available more often than not, because you're not going to play 4 days in a row unless there's a rain out. And so I think the best teams can have a collection of, say, 4 relievers that they can rely on in a game that they're leading, and you use them in a matchup sense, in a which part of the lineup do you want them to face. And so maybe Craig Kimbrell isn't your, quote, 9th inning guy, but if he's one of the 4 that you can turn to get those last 12 outs, then that's probably a good spot to be in.
No, I think that's a very fair way of saying it. And I do think that he provides a significant amount of value in that way. And when he was struggling, I don't think casting him off made no sense. First of all, they're paying him, 8 figures. You're not casting him off. But, I do think that there is still value in having maybe it's not, from a data standpoint, but it still feels like a team. The mentality is impacted by the belief that we know that this is an 8-inning game, that we have that level of confidence in the guy that would be out there for the 9th inning. I still feel like there is something about that has value, right?
Sure, but I don't think that's exclusive. Like if you have a team that feels like they play an 8-inning game when they have a lead, then that's a great quality to have. But I don't think that it excludes other ways of doing it. I do think you can mix and match a little bit. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying, what should Michael Elias be looking for as the deadline approaches in a couple of months? He should be looking for relief help. Does that have to be an alpha closer? It could be, but what's the price? I mean, the Orioles obviously have a system that could go out and fetch almost anybody. But this is both immediate because you can try to win the World Series in 2024, but there's also got to be a long view because this is a team that is set up roster-wise, system-wise, contract-wise, payroll-wise to be contending in 25, 26, 27. Yep. I mean, go down, I don't know where the end point is.
Yep. No, I completely understand. Barry Svrluga is with us, and we're going to link up his column on our Twitter account, @GlennClarkRadio, for you to go check it out. Barry, the other thing that is concerning to me today, and I think they can get it fixed. I think they're better than this. But a 304 team on base percentage, I don't think there's a chance in hell that you can win a World Series that way. And being this reliant on home runs, and I know that we've gotten more data that suggests that you can keep hitting home runs in the postseason. But we've never seen this. The worst on base percentage of any World Series winner in this millennium was the 2014 Giants at 311. The Orioles are 7 points worse than that, and they're the only team this millennium with a on-base percentage worse than 319 as a team that's won a World Series. I just feel like that part of this, the reliance on home runs, that still has to be corrected at some point during the course of the season.
So I would kind of tweak that a little bit and say I don't have any problem with scoring runs on home runs. In the game I wrote the column off, obviously, was Monday. Yeah. They scored 11, didn't hit, they had 6 doubles and a triple. So that's kind of an outlier. But I think you're right in that in the postseason, in baseball today, you've got to work at bats, you've got to work over pitchers, you've got to see pitches, and therefore you've got to get on base. So 304 is not really an acceptable team on base percentage. But I think the home run thing, separate that from the on-base percentage thing because, yes, Gunnar Henderson has 17 homers and is second in the league. But it's not like they're relying on homers only from Henderson and Rushman. I mean, I think there are 7 or 8 players on that team with 6 or more bombs this year. So that means that you're getting power up and down the lineup, that it's not just, okay, we've got to get through the 2, 3, 4 hitters and there's no other threats. I think, and I know, Mullins isn't off to a great start, although he had the big 2-run triple the other day. I just think that there's enough depth there. And I also think, it's not the same, doesn't have to be the same lineup every day to be dangerous. So, yes, would you like to see him draw more walks, get on base more? For sure. But I would never look at, in today's game, relying on the home run as a bad thing, because that's, it's so much of offense is generated that way.
No, I completely, I feel like there just needs to be a little bit more medium there, right? Like, I utterly understand that. And you're right. It's not simply 150 home run hitter and either that guy's hitting home runs or you're doomed. I just, boy, I don't know, man. I still feel like there's got to be, there have been enough. The strikeout to walk rate has been really bad, and I feel like when you face better pitchers in October, if that continues, that's really easily manipulated.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I also would, this is a painful reality. Like, it is not weird to have a strikeout for an individual hitter to have a 28% strikeout rate. I mean, that's just not strange. Yeah. And that doesn't mean I love it, but it means if you're playing the modern game, you kind of take that and you take it with the power. And I don't think the Orioles are like extreme in that way. Like, they don't have your Joey Gallo types that are like, you either hit one out of the park or you walk or you strike out. Like, they have, I just kind of believe in their hitters. Like, if you take Henderson, he homered against the White Sox on an off-speed pitch away that he took to left center, which is, like, to me, a mark of a good hitter is you can go that way to the opposite gap. That ball happened to carry out. Like, maybe 18 times out of 20, it's a double, and you're thinking, like, this guy is just – but he just had a little bit more power, and it carried out. I just kind of – maybe I'm overstating it. I don't watch them as closely as you do, but I kind of believe in their hitters and in the lineup as a whole.
I get it. And look, you bring up Cedric Mullins. I think there is an awkward situation they're running into at the moment where you want to get better. These guys have helped you to this point, and they do have helpful traits. Mullins, of course, his defense is outstanding, and his speed is extraordinarily helpful. Austin Hayes, who has struggled mightily this season, but the numbers still say he hits against lefties, so it feels like I think it's an awkward spot to be in where these guys have helped you this much. You want to ride it out. You want to give them grace, and you want to give them the benefit of the doubt at the same time, and specifically because the other options are guys that haven't proven it at the major league level. I think it's a tough spot to be in to boldly ask for them to say, hey, we are going to commit to these young guys over these players that have been so helpful in getting this thing turned around.
Well, I mean, one thing I would say there is, it's May 29th. It's not August 29th. Right. So I think there is a reasonable – I mean, I'm somebody who I think it was May 19th, 2019, wrote a column that the Washington Nationals should fire their manager because he obviously had lost the team, and they were 19-31, and all they did was go and win the World Series. So you learn something about a quick trigger in baseball. I would say, though, that because the Orioles are poised to win whatever is out there to win, that you no longer are making decisions based on you got me here. You're making decisions on what is the best for this roster today, what is the best for this roster in July, what is the best for this roster in October. I don't think that means that Cedric Mullins has played himself out of the lineup after 53 games or whatever it is, but I think it's a situation that bears monitoring because there's loyalty in sports is not choosing someone who is worse at their job over somebody that is better at their job. You've got to make the right decision for this team in this pennant race as they go forward. And that might be some tough decisions in July, August, and September. I'm not sure May is the time for it yet.
I think that's very fair. All right, Barry Svrluga, if I could just knock out two more with you real quick. One, I am you wrote in the column, and the term that I'm going to use is vibes, right? That it's not just that the team is good. It's that, like, that atmosphere on Monday is unbelievable. And by the way, on a miserable day, like the sun wasn't out, and nobody knew if the game was even going to be played when they woke up that morning, and yet there's 40,000 people there. I deal with a lot of, I don't know how to explain it, but there is a subsect of Orioles fans that just has decided they don't like Brandon Hyde, and they don't like his reliance on data, which is, to me, organizational. It's not Brandon Hyde making those decisions. And when he goes to lefties and all, especially with matchups, my belief is that for a baseball manager, vibes is almost like the thing. Like, that's the thing. Is the team responding to you? Is it working with this group of players? is the team winning, then I think you're doing a pretty good job. Like, that to me is sort of what it all comes down to. I don't know how much of a difference a manager can truly make because I feel like the data is almost always going to drive some of these decisions. Because of all that, I believe that Brandon Hyde has done a damn good job as the Orioles manager. Knowing everything you know about this sport, am I off base in my thought process?
No, I think you're on it because I think there is a great overstatement among fans of how much a baseball manager can impact the overall season. They can make a decision on a night that's good or bad. But I think you're right. So much of it is overall feel. Am I in touch with my team? Do I communicate well? Do guys know when they're going to be used, when they're going to have a day off, that they can come in and say, Skip, I need to be shut down today if you're a reliever. That's a huge part of the job. And then the second part you hit on, which is exactly right, like using starters a certain amount of time or building the lineup a certain way, is that a manager's decision? Kind of. It's also an organizational decision based on how they evaluate the data. You know, I had a conversation in the clubhouse with another writer the other day saying, I just don't understand why he hits Henderson first. I do understand why he hits Henderson first. You want him up over the course of the season 100 more times than if he hit fourth. Like, it's just, you want your best hitters to hit more. So I don't think how are you going to pick apart this team and say Brandon Hyde has done a bad job? I think that is the kind of, nitpicky stuff that when a town is really into its team and every game you're watching with interest, it comes up because people care. I just don't think it's a good analysis of how the manager has done so far.
And then before I let you go, I know you wrote about Angel Hernandez, and I enjoyed that. And I completely agree that a bigger part of the problem was that there was no ability to just say, hey, I might have gotten something wrong. I have talked a lot in the last couple of weeks about the future of balls and strikes, and I am absolutely, I'm a tennis guy, Barry, and so technology works. I am for just full ABS. Get rid of pitch framing. I want that out of the game. Fire it into the sun. Let catchers block and pop and throw and do all the stuff they're supposed, call pitches, that sort of stuff. I don't think that baseball is going to go there, but where are you with, in the next couple of years, are we going to see at least a challenge system? What is the future of balls and strikes in the next 5 to 10 years?
I can't imagine that we're not going to at very least see a challenge system and have the ability to do like in tennis where you go and the entire stadium sees the pitch replayed on the scoreboard and it's either a strike or it's a ball. They have the technology, and it would just take away some of the gray area, the human element that should be eliminated when some random guy on Twitter has the ability to grade everybody's, every home plate umpire's balls and strikes calling, and you can show who's bad and who's good. Why should there even be a who's bad? That should be eliminated. And I know that there's some color involved in umpiring, but I think we're at an age where if the information is available, to willfully ignore it is kind of silly. So I'd be shocked if we're standing here in 5 years complaining about some umpire's bad strike zone, because I think that bad strike zone will have been eliminated.
You can follow him on Twitter at Barry Svrluga. Barry, is there anything else that we can plug for you, sir?
No, I'm good. I appreciate it. Thanks for the chat.
Hey, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. We'd love to do it again down the road. Thanks so much, Barry.
Appreciate it.
Barry Svrluga with us here on GCR. I think this is the problem, is that I end up speaking in absolutes, right? And to say, hey, there's no way that this can continue, and they're too reliant on home runs. Right. I think Barry's point is well taken, which is it's okay that's baseball. In baseball, you hit more home runs, and it doesn't seem like it's fluky. It just seems like they're good hitters that happen to hit home runs. I would point out, for example, as much as we all believe Gunnar Henderson is a superstar, a true superstar in the game, you know what Gunnar Henderson's hitting in the month of May?
Is it? I guess is it low? I feel like he's been great at the month of May.
You want to guess? Just guess.
I mean, what is he? 270 on the year? I'll go 280.
280 in May is what you think.
Is it bad? Is that?
It's not good.
I feel like that's why this exercise is happening.
That's definitely why the exercise is happening, right?
Well,
like,
how
there's
many home
no
runs
doubt.
does he hit?
No, you said that plenty of home
He
runs.
had that stretch where he had, 4 or 5?
Right, correct. Here, I'm pulling up. It's our buddy Spencer Schultz on Twitter shared this earlier today. Gunnar Henderson is hitting .216 in May, but he's OPSing 867, which is wild, right? Like, it's wild. And also part of that is that he does take walks, and that's why I'm not going to be down on Gunnar Henderson just because he's hitting .216 in May, is because he also, as much as he hates it when he takes a walk and he gets furious and he throws his just it is a very good bit, man.
19 hits, 7 home runs.
Yeah, 7 home runs. And he also has 19 walks in May. And that's why you're not panicked about it. Gunnar Henderson is fine. His batting average isn't good this month, but he's getting on base at a .355 clip. He's not part of the problem. It's okay that Gunnar Henderson hits a lot of home runs. He's getting on base. Yeah, it's not as simple as a walk is as good as a hit because, as everybody would point out, like, a hit could be multiple bases, right? Like, not every hit is made equal, but it's not far off from that. A .355 on base percentage is thumbs up, guy. May that be what you have every month. I want him to hit more, in totality, but I'll live.
Well, it's not over yet.
That's true, too. There are still 2 days. 2 days.
Yeah, 2 games.
They play today, and then they play on Friday, and that'll still be technically May. So I guess he could hit 224. Come on, Connor. Something like that for the month of May. Speaking in absolutes is difficult. It's difficult to speak in absolutes. I will continue with your team on base percentage can't stay at 304. To say, could they be like those 2000? Is it possible that they could have a low on base percentage? They could be mid, have a 312 type on base percentage, be outside the top 10 in baseball, be somewhere around like 15th, 16th in baseball, and still win a World Series, despite the fact that you'd be talking about it being one of the lowest on-base percentages of a World Series winner in this millennium? Absolutely. I definitely believe that you can pitch, defend, and home run your way to that, but not at 304. Like, you still have to be able to find other ways to score runs because you can't always count on that to be the case. And you need to have a fair amount of luck, right? Like, you've had some bad luck already, injury-wise, with your pitchers. You would need to have a fair amount of luck the rest of the way in order to make sure you have that amount of pitching. So, yeah, speaking in absolutes makes it difficult. I harp on it, and people get on me like, you're always talking about the on-base percentage thing. What's the one thing that I think is truly, like, right now I think there are two things to me that stand out as being the separation for this team's ability to win a World Series this year. The bullpen, the on-base percentage. Those are the two things. So, I mean, we could just not talk about it, I guess. We could just pretend. Like, if you want, we could just...
I guess it's just hard because they have, every day they are fully capable of having a game like Monday.
Yes.
Where they're able to, have a 5-run inning, I guess.
They scored 3 runs in the first inning last night against Brian Bayo, who's the damn good pitcher. And then they didn't do anything for 4 innings. The next 4 innings, they didn't get a runner on base, it felt like. I know that's not actually true, but it was something like, I want to say something like 14 to 6. It's something in that neighborhood. They got very, very little activity until the 6th.
Oh, Kyle Stowers had a single in there.
Right. I want to say there might have been 2 base runners, maybe.
And then Rafael made that nice catch on the Mullins ball.
Hell of a play. Hell of a play, no doubt. Hell of a play. No question about it. All right, when we come back in, we will get a tidbit. We'll get tubular. We will start to wind things down. Don't forget, Stan, as I mentioned, Stan, Ross, and Luke were off on Monday, but Stan will be back tomorrow chatting with Eric Garfield, and then those guys will return on Monday. Every Monday and Thursday, Stan's doing shows for you. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, and if you miss it live, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. We are winding down for a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. Continue to get me your responses at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. Someone will win that $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. All right. I feel like there was something else I wanted to get to today, but I don't remember what it was.
Tariq Cohen signed with the Jets.
I didn't know Tariq Cohen was still in the league. I got to be completely honest with you. I don't know that I knew that. So God bless him. God bless him. I got nothing else to say about that. We talked last night about the
charges against Scotty Scheffler were dropped.
Well, I mean, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that press conference last week where they showed the video and everybody saw and they didn't drop them then. Like, dude, what are you doing? I have no idea what any of that was.
He last played during the 2020 season.
I can't believe that Tariq Cohen was still. I can't.
So he tore his ACL in 21. I think that was when the video. Was that when the video, like that video of him like training, or that was the next year? Jeez.
By the way, I don't think they've actually been dropped. I think they're just going to be dropped. Oh. Apparently, there's a press conference today, and that's the expectation. Is that that's going to happen? But
still waiting though. Okay, all right. So then
I also don't care. That definitely wasn't the thing that I was. I feel like there was something else that I had. I'm normally very good at writing things down, but we had a bit of a bumpy start today, and I did not write all of my notes down, and I feel bad about that. I'm so very sorry. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the place to get all the updates from championship season in high school spring sports. Of course, the public school lacrosse titles were handed out this weekend. If you missed any of that, want to know who won, if you're looking for any of the updates on baseball, softball, anything like that, you can go to CountySports.zone. CountySports.zone is the website, as all of the championship information can be found there. Who won? How did things end up? It's all brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com.
California teams in the MLB yesterday, they went 6-0, and there were 4 shutouts.
How about that?
Yeah, they were very good because the Dodgers had 2 games since they played a doubleheader.
I was trying to figure out how that worked.
Yeah,
I didn't know the Dodgers. I was like, is there a 6th team that I'm forgetting about?
A's shut out the Rays, shut out the A's, and then the Dodgers had a shutout against the Mets, and the Giants, they won in 10 innings. They won 1-0 against the Phillies, the best team in baseball, and then the Padres shut out the Marlins.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, just very, very, very surprising. And then okay, so I want to do most saves among active pitchers. Because obviously, the Jeff Arnold was throwing it out there like, oh wow, we have over 850 combined saves in this game between Kenley Jansen and Craig Kimbrell, and obviously those two
are on the list. Yes,
those two are on the list. So I want to see how many. I want to see. Oh shoot, what did I click away from it? I want to do the next 5 here.
The next.
Yeah, the next 5.
So those are the top
active,
2.
Yes.
And then the next 5. I assume it's Chapman, right?
So Aroldis Chapman will be number 3.
Yeah. Now after that, I don't know. Hader.
Josh Hader does just round out the top 7. So yes.
Okay. All right. Boy, this is actually quite difficult.
Yeah.
It's in part trying to figure out who's active and who's actually closed. Who's been Will Smith.
No, not Will Smith. He has 113. Hader had 171, by the way.
That's a low number. Presley.
Presley also 107. So he's got 6 less than Will Smith. Those two are like 1, 2. They're like 11, 12 on the list.
How about the guys we're talking? How about Romano?
No, not
Helsley.
Not Helsley.
Clase.
Not Clase. Clase is 8. He's at 120, only 127.
What a bum. That guy sucks.
Such a bum.
How about Edwin Diaz?
Edwin Diaz is 4th on the
Okay.
list. So Chapman, Diaz. 2 more, and then there's Hader.
2 more, and then Hader. 2 more, and then Hader in the house.
So 1 is like he's not closing at the moment. I mean, he might come in, but he's
Son
not
of
a
a
closer.
bitch. Brad Hand?
Not Brad Hand. I don't think he's active.
Is he really? I thought somebody signed him this offseason. I don't know. Hendricks?
He's a free agent. Brad Hand. No, not Liam Hendricks. He's a good guess though. He's right behind Clase and Hader.
I could have sworn someone signed Brad. Or maybe I just kept looking at the list of arms that was available and I kept seeing Brad Hand. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that was the issue. Iglesias.
Yes, Raisel Iglesias.
Okay.
Iglesias is that how you say it? Yeah.
So then the other one is the guy. So it's not Holmes. So the other one is the guy. How about? You really felt bad for Holmes blowing a save last night in Anaheim. Just felt terrible for him. Bless you, Taylor Ward. You're my guy. Someone who's not a closer anymore. That was a closer. Not a closer anymore. Was a closer.
He started with the Yankees.
Oh, Robertson.
Yep.
Yeah, Robertson.
David Robertson. Robertson won 170.
Okay. All right. Those are
176 for David Robertson.
The problem is after the first 2, Chapman's an obvious one.
Diaz has 210. Iglesias has 203.
Yeah, everybody after that.
176 for Robertson. 171 for Hader.
Very good. Very good. All right, it's time for us to get totally tubular. Yeah. We always do that after.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Orioles and Red Sox rubber match just after 6:30 on Masson. Cutter Crawford on the mound for Boston against Corbin Burns. Very nice pitching matchup there. No NBA tonight, of course, with the Celtics having swept the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 4 in the NHL Western Conference Finals, Stars-Oilers at 8:30 on TNT and True TV. French Open coverage underway. I think some of the outer courts starting to play again. Francis Tiafoe is supposed to play Denis Shapovalov from Canada today. We'll see if that happens. The rest of the baseball today, Masson 2, Nationals Braves at 7:20. It's also on ESPN+. MLB TV, the free game is Pirates-Tigers at 1. MLB Network has Cardinals-Reds at 1. Dodgers. I was about to ask why there were so many afternoon games on a Tuesday because, again, that's what the holiday week does to me is that I forget that today is Wednesday. MLB Network. But I assume some of these teams, the games played in the afternoon on Monday and, 2 afternoon games in a week. That sucks, too. It sucks because, you just like the company of having baseball at night. When you're –
There'll still be a lot of night games.
I understand, but if it's not your team, you don't care. That's just the reality of it. Anyway, MLB.
The Pirates one is fun because it's Paul Skeens and Jared Jones are starting both the games for the Pirates.
Oh, they're playing a doubleheader. Got it. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Sorry. Yeah, they were rained out last night. They have a doubleheader. Paul Skeens and Jared Jones.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good couple of pitchers. MLB Network: Cardinals Reds at 1, Dodgers Mets at 4. Cubs Brewers at 7:30, Yankees Angels at 10:30. Apple TV tonight for DC United and Montreal Impact at 7:30. Monumental for the Washington Mystics and Atlanta Dream at 7 o'clock. CBS Sports Network, Phoenix Mercury, the Mighty Merc, and the New York Liberty at 7. NBA TV, Vegas Aces, Minnesota Lynx at 8. TBS tonight for AEW Dynamite at 8 as well. Non-sports?
Non-sports, it is the semifinals of the Scripps National Spelling Bee on the Ion channel.
Gotta check that out, yes.
Master Chef Season 14 premiere on Fox at 8. And then there's the Under the Bridge, not
about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm still very confused by it.
That's on Hulu. The series finale was a limited series. That's on Hulu. They also have a docu-series called Camden, and it's about musical artists and how great Camden was for music.
Camden, New Jersey?
No, not Camden, New Jersey.
What?
In England.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Chris Martin and Dua Lipa, and then they do it. I don't know. Maybe somebody might.
I'm good.
And then on Netflix, Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult, which I didn't really hear about, but apparently it's a real thing. And this guy was hired, he was it was a management company, and he was a church, represented the church or something, some church in LA called 7M, and he would bring in TikTok dancers, and then he would make them just kind of be like, you can't talk to your family, you can't do anything, I run your social media. And it looked pretty serious, but they included somebody named Katie Joy, I think, and apparently people don't.
My head hurts.
Yeah,
My head hurts. What?
And apparently she lies about a lot of stuff, so everyone's kind of.
But did people die, or what the hell happened?
Not that I know of.
So it's just people dancing
separated from their families, though.
I mean, that sucks, but
they were young, people.
But were they children or were they adults?
I couldn't find the exact ages.
Okay, I don't know. This is
it's on Hulu or not on Hulu, Netflix. So that's why it almost is
I'm gonna be watching I'm gonna be watching baseball. I don't think I'm gonna watch that one.
Hockey.
I did watch some things. I watched the Beach Boys documentary on Disney Plus. It's a little bit it's just a rehashing of everything you already know. They didn't really go any deeper into the rift between Mike Love and the rest of the group. They didn't really. It was kind of whitewashing a little bit with the Beach Boys. That was a bummer. Although I'll still watch Beach Boys content. You want to make a Beach Boys documentary? I'll watch it. But
there's one more, Movie Pass. Did you ever hear about Movie Pass?
Yeah, of course I know about Movie Pass.
They're doing a documentary on HBO. Movie Pass. Crash.
How it failed. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a hell of an idea.
Oh.
And right now they could use just about anything to get people to go to movie theaters. I went to a movie theater, but it was
Garfield?
Yeah, took the kids to see Garfield. It was fun. It was a neat. We had a good time. We went to the drive-in movie theater to see it. I love the drive-in movie theater. I think that the Benji's people are kind of cultish. It's a little bit over the top, but I like the idea of the drive-in movie theater, and when I was a kid, I loved going to the drive-in movie theater. My kids could not have had a better time going to the drive-in movie theater. It was awesome. All that said, I don't think I can get Mrs. Clark to commit to going to the drive-in movie theater more. She was like, I'd rather sit in the AC. I said, all right. I mean, it did start raining at the end of the Garfield movie, and then like we scrambled back into the car at that point. It was a whole thing. But I had a great time. I went.
Sit in the car the whole time?
What's that?
Aren't you supposed to sit in the car the
You
whole time?
can, or you can sit outside and you can, get a radio. And the kids, before the movie started, we were playing soccer on the field up front. They have like a playground, and the kids made a friend. And then that friend was like, hey, do you want to watch the movie with me and we can build a fort? And they were like, hell yeah, we want to build a fort. So they built like a pillow fort, and they sat on the blanket and watched the movie with their new friend. And we,
Good guy.
I don't want to think that I'm like I'm obsessed with this type of stuff. Our car had been like 3 rows behind where these people were, and I was like, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and pull the car up and at least be close to where they are. Like, I'm not going to be the parent.
That's fair.
It's a fine line for me with, like, at some point I'm going to have to let them, like, just go play with their friends, and I can't just know everybody, and even people that could turn out to be evil people. But, like, the idea of letting my 9-year-old and 6-year-old just, like, hang out with some strangers where I couldn't see them, I'm still not quite there yet. Not quite there yet as a parent. So then we said we'll sit outside as well. And, yes, we got eaten alive by bugs. That part was a bummer. I could prepare better for the next trip to the drive-in movie theater, but I'm all in on the drive-in movie theater. Always have been. Love it. Love it. Great time.
Good.
I also watched. I finally watched the Iron Claw. I did finally watch the Iron Claw because it was out on. It's good.
I love it.
It's good. I don't think it's quite as good as, Best Picture nominee. I think it's good. I think it's. There was one scene that troubled me a little bit.
It's been out now.
I did not like after the scene in heaven after, and I can't remember which brother Jeremy Allen White played now. I didn't like that because that almost teeters into like the glorification of suicide, and I don't like that. Like, that was the only scene that. It's a very fine line, man. This is a conversation I have about grief and death and things like that. And it's too deep for what we do here. But I think when someone dies, you comfort yourself with the idea of like, hey, they can spend time with our dead relatives and they're reunited, and that's whatever, like we find comfort in that, and I'm okay with that. But there's a fine line between that and like presenting it that way in a film where, like, look how much happier this person was dead. That was a tough scene for me. I didn't like it. I'm not saying that it was artistically bad. I personally did not like it.
I think it was. I guess I took it more as just like the dad was, just kind of just he just wasn't a good guy.
But I don't think they really like. I don't think they ever made him evil. I think the dad pushed him, right? But they also always, he was very present. They didn't really get into like abuse, anything along those lines. I don't ever think they really like they never made the dad an evil character. And in fact, God, I feel bad not remembering which Von Erich is which because there's so many Von Erichs. Kevin, the one that
was Zac Efron.
That was Zac Efron, yes. Kevin, it felt like, in a way, appreciated the support of their father. It was weird. It was a weird movie. Weird. I knew a lot of the story because of, it's a well-known professional wrestling story, and it's ungodly. It's just such a tragic story of the Von Erich family. It was a good movie. It was a good. I'm glad I watched it. I am glad that I watched it. It's definitely worth the viewing. Even you don't have to be a professional wrestling fan for it to be worth spending time with this film. I don't know if I've said anything. I don't know what that was.
Okay. I really liked it. Did you like MJF's
who?
MJF his quick.
Oh yeah, the little, yeah, right, the little, yeah, that was fun. That was fun. He's great. All right, very good. We'll wrap it up for a Wednesday edition of the program. Thanks today to Matt Valdez. Thanks also to Barry Svrluga and to our buddy Ross Grimsley. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. Tomorrow on the program.
We will go out to Bowie.
Okay.
We'll catch up with Seth Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
And then we'll also catch up with
How's
Jeffrey Chadid.
Seth Johnson's season going?
He's doing okay.
Okay.
Fishing today, actually.
Oh, all right. We'll look forward to chatting about it. Jeff Chadid wrote about why the Ravens are the team with the second best chance behind the 49ers, he says, of dethroning the Kansas City Chiefs this season. Wrong. All right, stuff and things. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County. A.J. Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, the Maryland Jockey Club, Glory Days Grill, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Wednesday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks.